I thought a quick video might be a helpful addition to my application. I want to explain the theme of my project just a little further and why I feel so passionate about it. When writing my first book, I left London to go to a much cheaper rent in the countryside and had an epiphany there that changed my life. I suddenly realised how much life there was outside the city walls and how vital an appreciation of this is to gain a wider, healthier perspective on life. I started reading countless books on nature and mankind's relationship to it, a genre that's called psychogeography, being particularly interested in its curative value for mental health issues or dealing with tragic events. I'm certain that this affected the final chapters of my first book, with a hope and a positivity of man reconnecting with nature to find himself more whole. Since then, all of my story writing has been concerned with man's effect on his environment, and vice versa. My second book for Random House is on the surface an account of what led Woody Guthrie to write his first album, the Dust Bowl Ballads. But underneath, it's a study of how a capitalist notion of land ownership led to the deforestation of thousands of acres of prairie grass. I take a look at the Native American philosophy of the land and how it influenced Woody Guthrie's most famous song, This Land Is Your Land. So, this new project of mine, tentatively titled the Mile End Cemetery Song. I've long been obsessed with a cemetery in East London that has now been converted to a park of wildflowers and incredible natural diversity. The place is a magical mix of ancient gravestones scattered across its 33 acres, sunk in a sprawling mesh of wild growth. To me, there's always been something beautiful about so much vitality, such a vast array of life, in a place that mankind has reserved for the dead. I was recently accepted on a brief I found through IdeasTap, writing and illustrating an article about this graveyard, and the thoughts it provoked in me about death. I think its last paragraph sums up my thoughts for this new fiction project. And so, I sit submerged in this manipulated wilderness, surrounded by a city whose advance has enveloped its boundaries. And with this lowering of my eye level comes a change in perspective. The yellow constellations of clustered fennel flowers tower over the council flats at its perimeter, whilst the bulbous heads of poppies rise like hot air balloons over the horizon. With the eyes, the mind shifts its focus. The city is dwarfed by this ecology. The buildings being hauled up by the cranes will one day be pulled down, most likely by man, but ultimately by the same forces at play in this graveyard. Everywhere, the eroded monuments to Ozymandias scattered by roots and rain and the inevitability of entropy. The lead letters from the poor graves lay in heaps on the ground, dislodged from their headstones by the elements, an alphabetic spaghetti jumble of signifiers scattered into insignificance. In this graveyard, the monoliths of the rich no longer herald great power, but its direct opposite. In a world of nature, clawed by the creeping tendrils of the ivy, their broken features stand as testaments to flux, that nothing lasts forever. But somehow, somewhere in this peaceful hum of vitality, death is stripped of its banal horror. The sterile air of the wood-panelled crematorium, with its half-hour grieving slots, the green stones, plastic flowers, and stately yew trees of tended graveyards, these are torpid spaces of human construction, where death is lifeless and incomprehensible full stop. These places are constructed outside the city walls as a means of separating them from our inner consciousness. But here, in the Tower Hamlets Cemetery, amongst this tangled vitality of growth, death seems different, the foundations of the life that lives upon it. The space that was fenced off and preserved by man for his dead has been reconsecrated by nature, with life instead. I've sketched out a story involving a young immigrant from Sierra Leone who lives at the top of a tower block opposite two East End sisters in their 80s. The neighbours form an unlikely friendship, and when one sister dies, the other relies on the immigrant to help out. The story is a meditation on flux, how things change, and concentrates on the sisters' history in a London that has been swallowed up, the docks culture, the Blitz in the East End, and the new faces of London now appearing. But it is intended to be a celebration of flux, a means of coming to terms with it, and it's my ambition that the images and words in the piece can be offered as some kind of conciliatory gesture to ease the pain of grief. It is essential to me that this book comprises of woodcuts, simply because the care and time that is imbued in every print. There is no photoshopping in woodcuts, there is no technological trickery, and I think that the message of the book would be enhanced by this care and dedication that is so apparent in the images. I envisage the exhibition that will launch this book will further explore the changing scene of London, a change that envelops us all, and to celebrate the Mile End Cemetery as an area of cultural heritage that we can go to be more accepting of diversity and flux. Thank you for your time.